I'm going to call this meeting to order. My name is Joe McGivern. I chair the Holyoke City Council's Finance Committee. Members present this evening in chambers to my right, Councilor Tallman. On Zoom, Councilor Jordan, Councilor Anderson Burgos, and at the moment, that's the 4 members of the committee. We are joined by a number of guests, and we are expecting a few more city councilors coming in shortly. But without further ado, we are being televised on the public access channel. We are on Zoom. We are being recorded. We are also being streamed. And because we are hybrid, Peter's about to make a motion that we are going to take a quick roll call vote that will cover all incidental type motions to which we're allowed to do because we are hybrid and on Zoom.
I'll make a motion to do the roll call for each vote because we're on hybrid.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Our final member, Councilor Plowell, has joined us in person in the chambers. Roll call on that motion. Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Plowell?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson Burgos? Unmute Councilor Anderson Burgos, please. All right, we're going to take that as a probable yes. With that in mind, we're going to move on. We got a couple of special requests, but we're pretty much going to stick by the agenda and start with item number 1.
Motion to take item number 1 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 1 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item number 1 is the communication with the votes of the Community Preservation Act Committee and recommendations. The CPA committee has worked on these over the past, I'm sure, several weeks, and their recommendations, their final votes and recommendations come to us, which we will pass on to the City Council next Tuesday for our final vote. With that in mind, we have Megan McGrath-Smith, the chair of the committee, with us on Zoom. Megan, would you like to run us through these each of these projects? I know typically we just do it with the knowing that CPA has had their hearings and done your due diligence. And I think in City Council bingo, I just said due diligence, and I'm the first one to say it. So I guess I win the bingo prize tonight.
Sure,
Well,
I love that.
Welcome.
So all of you got the information about the projects that we are recommending. This came after we did our process, which means that we took the eligibility applications, we ran them through our staffer against what has been done in the past, the state coalition, as well as the city solicitor. Then we invited applicants to develop full applications based on that. And then those applications were vetted. All historic applicants went to the Historic Commission and presented not only asking for a letter of historic significance, but also sharing the scope of work and making sure that that scope of work was going to be following the standards set by the Department of the Interior. And a series of reports were created from a neutral party, a historic consultant that we paid for to create those reports based on the Historic Commission meetings, and those were then shared with the city solicitor. The recommendations that you have before you today went through that process and then were debated on and voted on after a rigorous public presentation process. There was also a public survey, and all of these were scored using our scoring rubric. Okay. So all of these projects were highly scoring. The first one that I want to mention is the Anniversary Hill Phase 2. It's really Phase 2 Part 2. Last year, and again, a lot of these projects are ones that we are just taking along the path, right, from the very beginning of some site work, some planning documents, and now moving them forward, or moving them from one phase to the next. So the Scott Tower Anniversary Hill Phase 2 project Part 2 is a recommendation for $100,000. And this is to continue work. Now that CPA funds have been used to cover the cost of the acquisition and protection of the 14.1 acres and site planning north of the tower, this phase will work out the preliminary site concepts and allow them to then be able to budget and apply for grants for the full design, engineering, and construction of a revitalization of Anniversary Hill Park. I will say that this area and Scotts Tower are wildly popular, and in all of CPA's initial meetings, Scott Tower got brought up a lot. A lot of people in Holyoke remember when that park was in its heyday. They really want us to bring it back. So this is us doing our part to keep this project moving forward and making it a reality. The second project is the next phase of the Glutak Woods project. So similar to the project that we did last year. Sorry. My son apparently needed a charger. Similar to the project from last year, we are hoping to partner with Green Acres again so that youth from our community are developing skills and also being paid to do this work, where they are going to rebuild out some of the trails, including really regrading some sections that are problematic in terms of trail erosion. And they're still working with some illegal ATV access points and trying to make sure that those are rerouted and just really returning it to better use. They're going to build a stairway, making it more accessible in some sections that right now may not feel great for folks. And so it's just all about making this really a usable parcel and making sure that it's for the public good. The next one is Stones Point Park, having a master plan. This is $32,500. Initially, the Parks and Rec Department had come to us and had pitched this idea of just replacing the existing play structure because it had been found to be in disrepair. Its metal steps into the playground structure were no longer attached to the structure, were rusting out, and the structure had to be removed. And that structure now has been removed. So if you go down to Jones Point Park, what is there is the swing set is still there, but the other play structure has now been removed for safety concerns. But there was this feeling that, the tennis courts had been added a few years ago. There's an open field, and there's some remnants of areas that were used at one point. There's a basketball court back there in the back that hasn't been maintained in a very long time, and is really no longer actively used as a basketball court because it has big cracks and it has grass growing in it. And you have a field that is often used for soccer, sometimes used for baseball or softball, but it hasn't really had a defined purpose or use. And so looking at how is this park currently used and what is the best use for this space. So the master plan will allow us to work with a consultant firm that will do that work and will really pull in the public. So they will do their work to pull in together a stakeholders group that has a number of voices from across the city. So someone from Parks and Rec, maybe someone who understands the historic nature of the original Olmsted plan for the park, folks who live in the neighborhood, folks who use it in different ways, right? Folks who are involved in different sports groups, and really come up with a solid plan. When Tom Reynolds presented, he said, maybe people that we do the survey with are going to say, we really want a pickleball court. Or maybe they're going to say, no, we really just want this to be an area that has a expanded playground. So they're going to do that work. And then hopefully in the coming years, we'll be able to use CPA funding to stage out the pieces of that master plan, especially because it's a park that is not in the CDGB catchment zone. Okay, Wisteria-Hearst Museum. This is for preservation planning and damage repairs. This is part of this 3-part project where they're going to asking us to fund an in-depth engineering survey of the main house and the carriage house to get an overall condition of the building with a focus on the masonry work that needs to be done. And then they are going to take that holistic plan to be able to then figure out, again, work that has to be staged for the future. And until that engineering plan exists, that work often cannot be budgeted for, you can't put out a request for proposal. The other piece is they're going to use all the remaining funds to be able to address an active leak through one of the chimneys that is damaging one of the rooms and has caused significant damage to the wallpaper. So we're going to use funding to repair that one chimney and then to repair all of the damage and have to restore that wallpaper that is in there. The City Hall Clerk Basement Document Recovery Project is a smaller project, under 10,000, 9,900. And this is because they found all of these documents in the basement that had not been preserved and had not been cared for, had not even been documented what was in them. And the ones that they've been able to get into have been really interesting, and that it seems to be documenting, the things that, we were saying, there's one that is about the outdoor poor, one is about the outdoor insane, really is sort of documenting some stuff that I think could be really fascinating. And both Eileen at the History Room and Penny at Steriohurst are really interested in getting their hands on these documents and figuring out how to best then use them once they know exactly what documents are there, right? Will they all go to the History Room? Will some go to Steriohurst? Will they work on it in terms of an exhibit? They've committed through letters of support to really figuring out a way to not only preserve these documents, but also then come up with a really great plan for their storage and for their public access. I think there's so many folks in our city that really have delved into our history and are holding on to it. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be really excited to have access to those documents. And then the last project under non-city historic project is the Wright Block. This is 106 to 120 High Street. The request is $250,000, which is half of the cost of renovating the exterior facade of their building with windows that hold on to the building's historic character. So some of the highlights that are in the order for the Wright Block. So this was one of the best preserved commercial blocks in Holyoke. It still has it's what's called a contiguous configuration, where you see some areas in our city that have a bit of a gap tooth smile effect, right? Like there's something missing there, right? And this is a block that so far has really held its contiguous nature. You look across the street and you can see that there was a building, I think it was last year, the year before, that had to come down. So very much trying to hold on to that section at the end of High Street and hold on to the very look that it had and its industrial history. So this is also a property that they have worked with OPED to really put together, I think, a really tight plan to develop a mix of affordable and market rate housing in that set of 4 buildings. And I think we're really excited to see them invest in the city in this way and wanted to support their work. They also did a lot of their due diligence around really walking us through all the financials and showing us that their project was shovel ready and well supported financially.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Megan, we also have item number 8 on the agenda tonight, which I think we just recently received a list as requested.
Yep.
I know Councilor Jordan is with us. Councilor Jordan is this was it was from the mayor, but an historic preservation of repairs needed on city buildings as requested by Councilor Jordan, Councilor Bartley, Rivera, Bacon, and so on. And I just I'm not sure. Councilor Jordan has got 2 meetings at the same time. Kevin, are you with us?
Yes, I'm going in and out of this energy siting meeting for the G&E, but yes, Mr. President,
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I am here.
I understand the importance of that meeting too. Megan's with us on item number 8. We can also bring that for a future date and get Sean Sheedy and Megan back in, or is it something we might want to handle tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly could do it a different night. Again, I again applaud the work of the CPA committee. I actually support all their recommendations except the one relative to the Wright Block. And again, not because the Wright Block is not a good project. It's just I have taken a principled position that we should be doing these municipal historic preservation projects first before we give $250,000 to a private entity. Hopefully, good Lord willing, we will get there someday, that we're at a point that we have these type of excess funds that we can do that. But whereas we're collecting, that's basically 1/3 of all the CPA money we collected for a whole year that we're giving to that project. I would like to see it done on public projects first. Once we exhaust that list, then I totally, would be open to these other opportunities. Other than that, I fully support what the CPA board came up with. I appreciate their work and particularly appreciate their strong support of the Scotts Tower project in particular, but a lot of their other good work. And I've continued to be very impressed with Megan and her leadership on the committee and the work of the other committee members. So that's my guidance. And I do apologize, I'm going in and out of this other meeting, but we are trying to work on getting these other important gas projects done for the G&E too. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Jordan. Is there any other questions from the committee? Any other thoughts, discussion? Councilor Tallman. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to table then item number 8?
Well, we haven't taken it off the
we have
table.
to- okay.
I just, Kevin and I had, and Megan and I had different conversations today, and I think we've all kind of come to a conclusion it's best to put it off for another meeting. It leads into Kevin's point about the city's immediate needs when it comes to especially historic preservation of and work on buildings. But we also know from talking to Megan in the past that the city has not exactly put these proposals forward. So we're hoping that that'll change. In the meantime, Kevin made his point. I think all these projects are ready and worthy of endorsement by the city council. I think historic preservation, whether it's publicly or privately owned, is a big part of what CPA is about. And I certainly commend Megan and the committee for what they do. And we've just been joined by our liaison to the CPA committee, and someone with him, very special, Councilor Izzy Rivera has joined us. And it looks like we have a special guest.
This is my daughter, Izzy Gabriela Rivera.
Good evening.
To both of you.
Both of you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, Councilor, we do have a group here, proponents of the right block, if you wanted to. Is that possible to suspend the rules and have them give a presentation? Or
I just stand short of a presentation. But
Okay.
certainly,
Or a talk.
we would entertain a motion to say hi and see if they want to add a couple things.
I'll second that motion.
And motion made and second that we suspend the rules to allow our guest, I believe owners of the Wright Building are here this evening, and allow them to approach the council. All those in roll call. Councilor Tallman?
yes.
Councilor Plowell?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern, yes. Councilor Anderson-Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if we needed a roll call for that, but we'll make it sure. I'm not saying we don't want a presentation, gentlemen, but the CPA is the hearings and their work we watch. And we hear from Councilor Rivera, and we hear from Megan, and we see and we know and understand it. But please, if you like to say hi and tell us some great things about the project, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have a specific presentation in mind. This is our first time doing anything like this, so we figured we would come and just be available for any sort of questions or anything. As far as the project goes, it obviously means a lot to us. This is a labor of love that we've been pursuing for about 3 years now. My colleague here is holding up a picture of it and what we hope will be an anchor to that entire block. Not just an individual project in its own right. So as Megan pointed out, we're not asking for the full amount of the facade. We're asking for half the amount. We're hoping to sort of match 50-50. To Councilor Jordan's point about the privately owned entity aspect of it, I completely understand where he's coming from. I would just point out that either way, regardless of who owns it, it's an asset for the city. This building will outlive all of us, hopefully, if we treat it right. And I worry that, if we wait around for when every single publicly owned building is going to be perfectly fixed to historical nature, we will have lost significant non-governmental owned buildings, whether it's the Essex or across the street at 111 or so many of these other beautiful historic buildings that are worthy of preservation, as you said, regardless of who owns them.
And we have, I think that's a point well taken by myself, we have lost buildings, and I call it the corridor of the last 3 blocks of High Street are not what's left of the old Holyoke, historic Holyoke, but a significant remembrance in these 3 blocks of what Holyoke was like in its heyday. Certainly, the building we're standing in, is the anchor, but it's also the anchor of our governmental hub. But the anchor of downtown Holyoke, was right here in these 3 blocks. I'm familiar with the building because I knew, and I think when I first got married, we bought some furniture at the Warnick Furniture Store itself, and it's a lot of memories, and it's a lot of good memories that I believe we should be preserving. We lost more than one building in this area, but the one that breaks my heart is the old Bud, because the historic nature of not just the fact that it was a tavern and a pub, it was a place where 24/7, when the gentleman came out of the mills after a 14, 15-hour shift, stopped to cash their paycheck, and if they're lucky, have 2 beers before their wife came down to grab them. But, the story of Holyoke is what we're talking about, and we see it in our architecture, the Caledonian building. We've had a lot of private investment in that. The city has done some investment, and there's other things that we've done to help it. Would you be willing to share some of your own private investment in this building with the community?
Sure. Could you clarify the question?
Well, what dollars you've been putting into the building itself? What the project?
Yeah,
entails?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So far we've spent about $700,000 or something in the building just to date. That is significantly more money than the building is bringing in and/or is worth. We're losing money on it every month. But we're happy to do it with the idea that down the road, it's going to become something that we'll be able to give to the city and have it outlive us, as I said. So we are really looking at not just, of course, the historic architecture is a huge reason that we're doing this, but we also want to feel like we're doing whatever part we can to help re-spark what previously had been the economic engine of Holyoke, which was its retail thoroughfare downtown, that unfortunately much of was lost, in the 70s when the mall came in. So we firmly believe in Holyoke's downtown, both as a retail location, as an economic hub. So we're trying to do what we can to restore that, which in this case is to bring in 4 storefronts and 19 apartments. That's another thing that we're really pushing for, is housing, to bring bodies back downtown. If you go at 5:30, it feels a little empty. So we're trying to change that as well.
Back in the 60s, before everything started to change, and it wasn't just the mall, but it was also losing the paper industry, which went south in the textile industry. In the 60s, on Thursday night, downtown was open, and there was a police officer on every intersection here, from Appleton Street down to Lyman and most of Maple Street, not because of crime. They had to be there to get cars through because there were so many pedestrians walking around and just shopping and enjoying the everything you just talked about.
One thing with that we're really focusing on is specifically bringing in businesses that are focused on bringing in foot traffic to bring back that sense of life. So specifically, we put in a bar to make Holyoke more of a destination. We put in a restaurant. And then a co-op kitchen to help other fledgling businesses, rent space for a little while and then blossom into something else and take another piece. So we've been very, very deliberate as far as who we're bringing into the city, into the spaces. Particularly, we're focused on, whenever possible, women-owned, minority-owned businesses. We're giving preferences to local business owners. First from Holyoke and then from the Pioneer Valley. And so we're really trying to make downtown a destination where people want to come, and food is, we think, a great way to do that. So that's been our focus for this building in particular.
So were you open for Road Race Day?
Yes. The bar specifically was open at night, and I think they brought in music, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's definitely a.
But most of the establishments downtown are open during the day and close at night out of fear.
Yeah, but
That might not be the best way to put it, but I think you know what I'm saying.
yeah, and we're looking to kind of to change that. I mean, part of what foot traffic does is it makes the area safer, or at the very least feel safer, because you see other bodies, it's more eyes on the street. So that's been very, very crucial to us in choosing these businesses, because we don't want a business that's going to be closed 5 days of the week or something like that. We want it to bring bodies downtown, and the more people that are going to be there, the more people that it will attract. It's sort of a virtuous cycle that way.
Nice. Councilor Rivera, did you want to add anything? I see you got your hands full.
Yeah, Councilor Rivera was nice enough to visit.
So for me, and I'm sorry that I'm not at my actual seat. I think for me is I had questions at first because it is a private entity, but again with the piece when it comes down to it, this is a building that's in the city and it has been in the city for decades, maybe over 100 years probably. I'm not completely sure, but at the end of the day, once these owners, if they ever move on from it, someone else will inherit or purchase the building. So it would be good to help support the project. So I'm fully supportive of the project, and I appreciate them coming to the city, investing in the city, and specifically in a corridor that for me brings a lot of memories. And maybe not the same as Mr. McGiverin, but for me, I used to walk from school at Magnet Middle School down to the flats and pass by the old Wernick furniture, but it was closed by the time I was there. And I would see the sign, and so like for me, that building is a staple in the community itself, and I'm glad to see it open and people working on it and businesses thriving within that space. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. was my father's name.
Yeah, we gave that sign, by the way, to the Holyoke Preservation Trust so that it could be saved.
Nice, very nice. Any further discussion? Megan, we thank you. I think we did pretty good. We're gonna.
Got one.
Oh, Councilor Anderson Burgos has his hand up on Zoom.
Yeah, I'll be quick.
Take your time.
I wanted to point out, when I look at downtown and I drive through there quite frequently, I see a lot of room for improvement. And when I put on my investment hat, say for example, if I was in charge of CPA, I mean, all of Holyoke is in charge of CPA, but if it were my decision, of course I would help this group of people before us to help improve that portion of High Street. Or because the way I look at it, an investment in one building is an investment or into another building, because once you see someone developing, it attracts other business, people who are trying to create or start a new business. It's going to attract other people to invest and follow suit. And I think this investment is a good investment, even if it's using CPA funds, because in return, what we're going to get back is taxes coming in. And another thing that this gentleman mentioned was apartments. So as everybody knows, I work for Representative Duffy, and there's a need for apartments. And I was on the phone for a couple hours looking for an apartment for a young man, and there's hardly no apartments in Holyoke. And we have this group before us willing to invest. And I just think to myself, I think I understand where Councilor Jordan is coming from, absolutely do as well. But it's not like they're tax exempt. They're paying taxes. So in the long run, the city will see double its money, triple. And in the same breath, we're preserving the identity of what the city was and still could be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. With that in mind, Megan, did you want to add anything?
The building is 153 years old. I looked it up when that came up.
Any other discussion? The chair would suggest that we report the recommendations of the CPA out with a favorable recommendation, knowing that we'll probably have some more discussion on the one non-city-owned project, but in fairness, that'll be next Tuesday. We appreciate all the work of the CPA. The information we need is here. The appropriation, this is not an appropriation vote for the city council. That was already taken when we received your budget and your estimates of what money was coming in. But this is the final approval request of the CPA of how to spend the money. So we will take this up on next Tuesday is our full city council meeting, if the committee agrees with me.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendations of the Community Preservation Act Committee for these projects.
Second.
Motion made and second. With no further discussion seen, roll call, Councilor Tallman,
Yes.
Councilor Powell,
Yes.
Councilor Jordan.
This is on final adoption of the proposal, right?
It will be, Kevin, but we'll separate it at the city council level to I'm anticipating you have a discussion on the right building.
Yes, okay. I'm going to vote for this. Again, I really appreciate these folks. They seem very lovely from the right block, and they're doing a lot of good for the city. I will vote for this in committee. Obviously, I won't vote for the right block for the reasons stated earlier, but looking forward to supporting projects like that in the future. But however, I am voting in favor to advance this to the full council and appreciate the committee's work and the CPA committee's work as well.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson Burgos. It's a roll call.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was looking for my hand up. I'm like, wait, roll call. I'm a yes. Thank you.
All right. Passes 5-0 with the asterisk. Thank you, Megan. And we'll, as stated, number 8, we'll put on for a future meeting and see if we can get that list going. And I think Kevin's point is well taken as far as, city-owned projects being prioritized, but the city's got to put the projects forward too. And that's not, it's not for your committee to do, it's just for your committee to receive and review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Councilor.
night. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Have a good night.
Motion to take up 2?
Second?
If we do 3 together?
Oh.
Yeah.
Items, suspend the rules, take items 2 and 3 together.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to combine items 2 and 3 together as a package and take up for discussion. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed?
Yeah.
2 is the memorandum agreement between the City of Holyoke and NAGE R1 180, known as the Clerical Union. 3 is the money to support this agreement, which is a appropriation transfer from Sanitarian 1, $7,590 into Sanitarian 2, $5,060, Sanitarian 3, $2,530, which totals at $7,590. We have with us from the Law Department, Attorney Bissonnette, and we have with us from the Board of Health, Sean
Sean.
Gonzalez. Sorry.
Goncalves.
I got that. Welcome. Typically on the memorandum, we let the law department go first. I did receive a phone call today from, I believe, the president of this union, or the one of the members of the union who cannot be here tonight, but he did send his support and said, and I explained to him, we just want everybody to be here when we ask questions so we can hear if there are more than one side of any story, but I think this one's pretty cut and dry. Attorney Bissonnette, did you want to take the city part?
Good evening, everybody. Most of you are no stranger to the city's efforts to recruit talent and to keep the talent that the city has. The mayor has gone above and beyond in trying to keep the best that we can. This is another example of those efforts, and I'll let Sean, who knows about trying to recruit and how hard it is to keep people when other communities are trying to steal your talent. He knows it as well as anybody working as a department head. So let me turn it over to Sean.
Sean, welcome. And Sean, this is two-part for you. the appropriation, just why you have a surplus in Sanitarian 1 and why this is important to your office.
Oh, hello, good evening, everyone. So to answer your first question, we have a surplus because there's been turnover at the position. That's the easiest way to say it. Sanitarian 1 had a vacancy as we hired. We had a Sanitarian 2 leave. The Sanitarian 1 that we hired was promoted to that Sanitarian 2 position, and then there was time between our ability to hire the next Sanitarian 1 to fill that position. So the surplus is just there because there's been turnover through the inspector position. And to just take this into the next question that you had, since 2019, the Board of Health has had to advertise, hire, promote internally for an inspector position 9 times. Either, there were 2 retirements and there was a medical retirement, but the other 6 were changes in position. So, we had an inspector in 2019, 2021, 2022, and we just narrowly, through this agreement, avoided having at least 2 more inspectors leave due to essentially interested parties in other communities. Holyoke, I love the city, but it has unique challenges, and those unique challenges create a lot of opportunity for inspectors to see and deal with a variety of circumstances and scenarios. And that kind of experience and that breadth of challenges makes these inspectors very attractive to other communities who, until this recent agreement was made, paid substantially better than the city of Holyoke.
Thank you. Ian, is there anyone else joining us from the union that wants, I don't think so, other than what I said about Mr. Bartholomew. Okay, discussion. I have one question, Shine. I think you stated it, but I just want to rephrase it. Is pretty much the city approached the union and said we have to do something and we need to change our structure to attract, but more important, keep these inspectors. Does that make sense?
Yes, I reached out to the city and said, hey, we are about to be in a bad way here because these inspectors, there's 3 inspectors who are, being discussed in this agreement, and all of those inspectors had been approached, and one had an offer and another had an offer pending, and another was, in line for a second interview. So it was an emergency situation between multiple communities, and I reached out to the mayor and the personnel department, and they referred me to Lisa, and we were able to come to an agreement.
Councilor Powell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Sean, it's good to see you. So I'm just trying to understand this breakdown a little bit better. So I see S32, and then we're increasing to S38.5.9 for the 36. Can you maybe just walk us through? I see all the numbers, but I'm not as smart as everyone else up here. Can you help us kind of break down the hourly rate and then maybe the yearly pay for it too?
Yeah. So these grades, for people who are familiar, every position in the NAGE union has a grade that they're assigned through the bargaining process in the contract. So what this agreement is they are moving the Sanitarian 2 from S32 to S38.5, which represents a difference of about $6.50 an hour. And so that's going to work out to an increase this year that the transfer is $2,529.45 per person. For the remainder of this year. But it essentially boosts them up $11,000 and change annually at each position. So these grades are separated. The Sanitarian 3 assistant health director historically has had about a $3,500 difference between their position and the position that is answerable to them responsibility-wise, which is the Sanitarian 2. They report directly to the Sanitarian 3. And so they were all bumped the same amount at their positions.
So at
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit. At 11,000 a year, how many, what's the total for that, for everybody combined, for the budget?
I think it comes out to, it's less than 12 each, so it comes out to about 35, I believe, 34 and some change.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I had one quick question.
Councilor Jordan.
Was there any analysis of like other comparable communities? I know there was some discussion early on about, not able, trying to keep our talent. And the question was there an analysis for other communities for these comparable positions that justifies the large increases?
So certainly, I think the city has been doing this with not just these positions. The city had some existing homework, so to speak, before, I brought this to anybody's attention. They had been looking at positions throughout NAGE at making salaries more competitive. And so they had some pending figures that they were looking at. And then out of a sense of urgency, we sort of accelerated that timeline. So we looked at Westfield, we looked at West Springfield, we looked at South Hadley, Chicopee, Northampton, local communities. And, at the same time, one of these inspectors had an offer in hand and another was looking at them. So we had definitive numbers, but they all have similar contracts, one way or another, that are publicly available. So we were readily able to go, for instance, the city of Westfield website and see what they're paying inspectors. They have not exactly the same, but a similar setup with grades and step raises. The same could be said for West Springfield, but we were able to compare numbers to come to these figures.
Okay, great. Did you share that with us, Sean? I don't recall seeing those charts. Did you make some charts up that shows, so much Westfield, so much West Springfield, and then Holyoke, and then it shows like how we're out of alignment?
I have some of those numbers, and the city has some, yes.
Okay, well, I think
it wasn't submitted with this, though. I don't believe so.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, because I don't recall seeing that. I would like to see that kind of information so that the committee has our backup, so that we can say we did our due diligence to justify why we're giving these type of increases, because you did a analysis of the different communities, and as a result, in order to avoid losing people and that we're way out, if that's the argument that we're way out of line with our neighboring communities for these positions, then, you could crosswalk that for us. Can you provide that to us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. So, all right, great. So I think we should get that information and make an intelligent decision from there, right?
We are joined by Mayor Garcia. Mayor Garcia has been on Zoom, but he just got here, and it's good to see him in person, as always. Mayor, did you want to weigh in? I think you've been listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came in, all 9 unions, you guys heard this before, they were all up, and so we were trying to be as strategic as possible as how we handled each one, beginning with where we were getting the most turnover, where it was impacting services, and we came in front of you and we took care of PSA, and we did our friends over at the DPW, and taking care of some others. Now the focus next is NAGE, and we hope to look at each professional position and do exactly what Councilor Jourdain and Councilor Puello just mentioned about doing an analysis. For this particular position, there was an opportune moment because it just so happened that there was another community we were going to lose this inspector to, and we're just about to kick off negotiations, and so we took we kind of brought this one up further on the list to take care of immediately. And Lisa, the law department does have a comparative analysis of those communities that can be shared, absolutely, no question. But just so that folks know, that's what we want to look at, is understand what other communities are paying these specific positions, whether it's an inspector or a clerical position. What are other communities paying, and trying to find out what the competitive rate, not to exceed it or low it or try to be the most paid, but what's going to be that right salary for Holyoke? So that analysis, along with our attorney consultant as well, Russ, who's been incredible in helping us in trying to further evaluate that and to be sure that we're coming up with numbers that make sense, that they're not just kind of a taken from the sky kind of salary dollar amount. But for this one, the reason why this one's in front of you is because there was this moment we didn't want to lose the inspector. I did get a letter from the director of Board of Health expressing the urgency, and so that's when we took a much more aggressive approach with this position. But there will be more as we go forward with continuing to negotiate with NAGE the structural changes in their salaries.
We also have our auditor with us, Tanya Dojic. Tanya, the money being transferred will get us through the rest of the fiscal year?
That's correct.
Okay, and the impact on the future budget is in line with what the department head told us?
That's correct.
Okay. And we can afford it?
This year. Yes.
We're about to.
You always got to throw her one curveball, right? Sean, Mayor, the Sanitarian 3 is actually the Assistant Board of Health Director? Okay. And is that an hourly position now, or is it salary?
All of these NAGE positions are considered to be hourly.
Okay, and they have been, is what I mean.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thank you, Sean, for the work you do there too, and trying to keep your employees. What are the positions? Could you just run down the positions you have now as far as sanitarian, and how many do you have open? 1, 2, and 3.
So currently, the way the department is set up is there's typically 2 sanitarian 1s. There are 2 sanitarian 2s, and there is a sanitarian 3. One of those sanitarian 1 positions has been defunded due to budget cuts the last couple of years. So that is not filled because it's not funded. All of the other positions are filled at this moment.
Okay, so you have 1 sanitarian 1, 2 sanitarian 2s, and 1 sanitarian 3, which is the assistant?
Correct.
So, okay, so those are the total, basically, what do you consider inspectors? So you only have just 4 inspectors?
We have the inspector of animals as well, but he's in a different bargaining group. But
Okay.
yes, I'm also, I'm an administrator, but I also do inspections as well as needed. But these are the core inspector groups. This 4 and this position that I hope to have filled next fiscal year would be 5.
Will be 5, okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Jordan?
Yeah, maybe I'm a little slow on the uptake here, but I'm just still not getting quite the information I need to make a thoughtful vote here. This memorandum is related to one person that was planning on leaving, but we're making a counteroffer for this person to give them an increase? Or is this for a series of other, like how many positions exactly are getting an increase under this proposal? And if it's multiple positions, then why aren't we getting the salary comparison data so that we have the backup to make an informed decision before we vote? Like, what's the rush here? I'm just trying to understand, like, why aren't we doing give us the info, we do the comparison, if it's out of line, then we make an adjustment, assuming we can afford this, and then that's the vote. It seems like we're missing a step here, but correct me if I'm wrong. Sean, can you help me with this?
Yeah, the rush is these people were going to leave. It wasn't one person. This is 3 people in 2 positions, salary-wise. So 2 sanitarian 2s and a sanitarian 3. And the rush is that they were going to leave. The city of Westfield had made one of these inspectors an offer. He had it in hand. He had a 2 weeks notice that he gave me, and I reached out to the city, and it was a plea for help. Please do not allow this department to continually be poached by the state and other organizations nearby. And at the same time, the assistant director had already done an interview, had a second interview scheduled with the mayor of East Hampton, and their personnel director, and that's a sign that they were intending on hiring her. She had a good relationship with the director there that left, and the other inspector also had received an interview and offers from other communities. So, this department is very busy. It's called constantly by other departments. We have a lot of work, and allowing it to be stripped bare over a few $1,000s is going to significantly interfere with the continuity of operations, as well as the fact that we continue, as I mentioned, to lose inspectors because they're happy in the work, they're willing to do it, and then they get a better offer somewhere else and they leave to do the same work or possibly less work for more money. And so we're constantly training new people, which costs money as well. I understand your concerns, but I hate to be penny wise and pound foolish, where we say, well, why this hurry? But having to hire someone who's less capable, who has a lower capacity for the work, and train them over multiple years to do this work, and then to possibly, we're going to adjust the salary in the coming year as the city intends to do. So we're going to pay somebody else more money who's less capable and less trained and has fewer qualifications and less familiarity with the city and how things operate. And we're not talking about one person. We're talking about an assistant department head who's been with the city for 7 years, was here through COVID, is one of the most egregiously underpaid people in the city by position. Other cities pay their assistant health director considerably more than the city of Holyoke does. So you're going to lose that length of time, commitment to the city, that knowledge, and then you're going to lose two bright young inspectors that we have that we train.
I think you're missing my point. I'm not arguing with you about why to do this. What I'm arguing is, if I were you and I was in front of a city council trying to make a presentation in support of pay raises, I would come armed with the data that says it gets paid, these positions get paid X in these other communities, and we're only paying X, so therefore I need to be X plus. And I think it's also important to note, if it's 3 positions, it's not $7,000 or whatever it is for the rest of this fiscal year. It's $36,000 for the year, right? Because these people expect to be paid beyond July 1st. So my question then again is, and again, I'm warm to your proposal. It's just, I need information, I need data. So what are the 3 positions, these, let's say the sanitarian 2, there's 2 of those, I believe. What are they getting paid today, and what is the average salary of the quote unquote competitor communities?
I don't have that chart in front of me with the competitor communities. I had done all of that with the city solicitor and the auditor, so I don't have that in front of me. You'll excuse me with that. But Agawam pays 57. City of Westfield was offering 61. Those are the numbers that I have in my head. That was the offer that they made to my employee. There are a couple other towns that pay more. Same thing with the assistant director. She's making 54. In other towns they're paying in the 60s, mid to high 60s.
Okay. So just so I have this here, one of the positions is currently being paid, your sanitarian 2 is making how much now? You have 2 of those, I believe. So how much are they getting paid, and what is the comparable salary?
They're getting paid 27, step 5, the highest step is 27.94
per hour.
Per hour. Comes out to just a hair over 50,000. And for just a frame of reference, I got hired with the city in 2014 as a sanitarian 2. It was called something else back then. The city of Chicopee was hiring brand new inspectors at 50,000 in 2014. The city of Holyoke is paying inspectors 8 years later $1,000 more than that.
Okay, so back to my question though. So our people are being paid $50,000 a year as a sanitarian 2.
Right.
And you're saying that the comparable would be to get to what, 57,000?
That's the low. That's the
Okay.
low end, but this is 63 is what the new annual salary would be.
63, okay.
Correct.
And, all right, so 50 to 63. And for the sanitarian 3, what are they getting paid today?
29.89, which works out to just somewhere in the range of 54.
54,000, okay. And that salary will go to what under the, what is the comparable, or what will it go to under the?
66 is what it would, that's the new salary adjustment.
Okay, great. And so I guess, is the mayor still with us?
He actually has his hand up. He's patiently waiting.
Oh, beautiful, because I have my next questions to him. I count on our chief executive to do the due diligence. I'm the part-time guy here that comes in at night, so and does the mop-up work. But I count on the chief executive of the city to have done the due diligence on these numbers. So I trust him to have vetted all of this, because if I were in his shoes, I'm sure I would have asked these questions. So, Mayor, we have a request here from one of your department heads that says he wants to take the salary from 50 to 63 on 2 positions and 54 to 66 on another position, because we're going to lose these people. These are salaries far below what apparently is market competitive. Have you reviewed all that and you agree? Because I'm sort of leaning on you to say yes or no on this.
Hey,
Your thoughts?
I just wanted to thank
Mayor
you,
Garcia.
thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councilor Jordan. I was going to say, you're absolutely right in asking the questions that you are, and I don't mean to put this amount of pressure on Sean. You're right. I take full responsibility. There was a great deal of work that would happen. This is a non-traditional approach. It's not my interest at all to come in here one position at a time. And it just happened because this poaching took place. There has been a lot of progress in the Board of Health Department with the existing staff, including those staff working with other departments, with Flex Squad, among other things. And to Sean's point, to have a newcomer, a new guy to come in, or a new woman, you got to retrain them up, rebuild those relationships. So that's why we've acted quickly and swiftly. I would have Kelly here sharing all of this with you and give you she's on vacation. So I'm going to take the full responsibility here, the blame that not being prepared for this meeting, and you're asking all the right questions. There has been due diligence. I know, I don't, me personally, I know there's some time issues. Sean's probably going to cringe when I say this. If you want to table it, and we can bring that back to you if you to feel confident, but just know that yes, the work has been done. It's been looked into between the law office, Mayor Mike, I still call him mayor, once a mayor, always a mayor, wasn't at those discussions, so he doesn't have that, but Lisa was, including Kelly, who's our personnel director, who's got all this information. Unfortunately, it's just not prepared today to present it to you.
Well, Mayor, let me ask you this. If we were to pass this tonight, could you get it to us for our next city council meeting so we would have that information so we could vote on it at that time?
I'll get it to you tomorrow, hopefully. That way you guys, you can share it with the rest of the council. But that's my fault. I take responsibility for that.
You just need to give it to the Wizard of Oz, and we will all get it as soon as you hand it to him.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Points well taken, and information that we do typically have at these meetings, but I understand, especially with Kelly being on vacation. But it's not just the Board of Health. Historically, over the last decade or two, we've lost people from the building department to other communities. We lost the Board of Health director, a longtime Board of Health director, to Ward 8. That was a sin to give up Ernie to Ward 8, and then we lost Paul Healy to Longmeadow, I think. And
it's those enforcement departments.
Dan Bresnahan to Springfield. I mean, the list goes on. And it's not just department heads, but especially inspectors. And we know the building department. We've had vacancies for probably several years now in terms of the people that go out and do the nuts and bolts and everything. Just a question. I understand it. I'm in favor of it. These are hourly people. Are we looking at a lot of overtime demand?
Overtime comes, I would say, for certain times. So overtime, like parade weekend, is overtime heavy. The flex squad isn't overtime based, weekends and nights, but that's through ARPA. I would not say heavy. It's situational when events occur, things of that nature.
It falls on your shoulders, Sean, to control that though, because I agree, I understand your point, but our other problem is the revenue coming in doesn't always meet the practicality of our needs in terms of salaries, and I'm a strong proponent, to advanced salaries to make them comparable to, especially Western Mass, communities. But I think it's important because we need to keep good quality people in these positions. But we also need to keep people, and I'm not going to go back to fiscal '92, but that was a nightmare year. And someday I'll share those stories if you don't historically know what happened that year. But 1/3 of every budget was about to be laid off. And when you lay off people, when you're self-unemployed insurance, you lay off more than 1/3. Every person you lay off another person and a half to pay the unemployment. And we don't want to go. The voters of this community saved us, and we don't want to go back to that. And that's why our questions are tough. Not because we don't think people deserve these salaries, but we just got to align them with the budget and make sure the budget supports them. But Sean, you got that tough job. I know the mayor's on you about that. Budget hearings are coming up.
That's right.
Hey, I appreciate your questions. I understand the purpose of these hearings in the finance committee. I definitely do. I would speak to the unstated costs of turnover in departments. And I think somebody mentioned the building department, and you had a quality local inspector there, and that position's been empty for, almost a year, right? They just recently filled it. It's hard not only to find qualified candidates, but candidates that fit. And, we had somebody and they left to chase a buck in another neighboring community. And then, you don't find the right quality person for a year. That's not only, you're not able to fulfill that person's duties for an entire year of time, but then you also have to bring someone on board and then train them. So there's even more time lost. And I think that cost doesn't always make its way to a spreadsheet, so it's easy to overlook.
It's a point well taken. We just got to balance it with the budget, but sometimes I guess you got to do what you got to do. And I'm not afraid to mention people by names. We recently lost Mr. Cody. So the list goes on. It's not just Board of Health and Building Department. It's a lot of departments. Our law department. How many lawyers have we lost to other communities or to Comcast?
Just as long as we don't lose any on the city council, right, Mr. Chairman?
We might be losing a few.
We haven't had a salary increase in 30 years.
I know. How about that?
That nothing to do with full-time employees. We keep it that way, but that's okay. Yeah.
We're the night workers, right, Kevin?
Exactly, yes.
Part-timers. Yeah, part-timers.
Okay, with the promised information, I think we have what we need with the...
I'll make a motion with getting that analysis that we approve this transfer.
Second.
Motion made and second that we adopt the appropriation, which essentially would approve the memorandum of agreement with the union and with the city. On the motion, roll call, Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Powell?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson-Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern, yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
I can make a motion to take item number 4 off the table for discussion.
Motion made and second to take item 4 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Introduce under my name for the mayor a appropriation transfer request of $100,000 from cannabis stabilization to a program known as substance abuse programs, excuse me. With us, we have Aaron Vega, our OPED and planning director, along with the mayor, to walk us through this request.
Sure. Good evening, councilors. Thank you. And yes, this is in line with, I believe, 2 orders that actually came out from the city council to utilize some of the funds towards substance abuse prevention. Our plan, if this is approved, is to use the cannabis Citizens Cannabis Review Committee to first hold an informational session with stakeholders such as CHD, Gandara, Holyoke Medical Center, Holyoke Health Center, etc., that do substance work prevention programs, learn from them a little bit about the programs that are going on in the city, and then put out an RFP to hopefully fund and support some of those programs. And again, then my office, along with, of course, the help of purchasing and all the other great department heads, will vet those proposals and hopefully release these funds to those programs doing the work in the city. So it'll be a little bit informative for the members, both in my office and for the Cannabis Citizens Review Committee. And then again, this is a small step in trying to help the work that they're doing.
If I could just real quick interject, BHN and Mira Vista.
Yep.
Mira Vista is not new to the city. They're new to the ownership of what was Providence BHN under Mercy Hospital and so forth, and former Providence Hospital. They actually managed the project for Mercy Hospital for many years before they bought it out, and they're up and coming. They're a great program, and they're up and coming not just in the city but in Western Mass. And BHN growing, and and CHD, they both are growing.
Absolutely.
Which that's a topic for another another venue. But their substance abuse programs are certainly notable.
We'll plan on putting out a press release, obviously, then directly reaching out to those companies to hold a meeting.
If you're going to talk to Gandara, just ask them for our rent money for the geriatric authority before you go too far with them. And I'm sorry, but pay the rent. Well, they got the money. Mayor, did you want to weigh in on this?
I just wanted to add that, commend Aaron. The intent behind this was from listening to this body and responding to the orders from councilors expressing a desire to use impact fee money to help with substance abuse and education. And so Aaron thought it'd be a good idea to respond. So this is really responding to the councilor requests. I was more than happy to support it. I think it's a very good initiative, an area of focus, and certainly a good collaborative opportunity, something the council wanted to see done. And now Aaron is trying to do something in response to that. So,
Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, again, just another reason why I'm a fan of Mayor Garcia and his team. I really appreciate this. This was a request I know I specifically had made, and I know it was shared by a number of counselors, and just so thankful that they're doing this. I think it's really important as we think about impact dollars, that we think about, industries like whether it's gambling. There are those that, while there's plenty of winners at the table, there are those that don't win. And there are people that are problem gamblers. And I think we can all agree that there's going to be people that have problems with drug use and potentially with the expansion of recreational marijuana. And this is a great way to consider that impact and making sure that we're remembering sort of all the corners of the industry, not just about fixing the sidewalks or doing different things that we do with the impact money, but also making sure that nobody's left behind and that we're being responsible and we're doing our part as a community. And of course, Holyoke, once again, almost always does our part. We're very socially engaged. We care deeply about our fellow man. It's part of who we are. So this is very consistent with that, and I really appreciate the outreach and the initiative and the quick turnaround on this, and very, very happy to support this enthusiastically. So very thankful to the mayor and to Aaron. You're really taking this in the right direction, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Tomlin.
Yeah, I'll also echo Councilor Jourdain's remarks, Mayor and Aaron. This is very important to have this money used. It definitely impacts our community, and it's something that many people that starting to use recreational drugs, could end up having problems, and to have a net to fall into where they could get assistance and to this grant, to this money. I was looking through some of the readings of the review committee that put this forward. Is this something that will be possibly a yearly amount? I mean, 100,000 is a lot of money, but some people are saying it's not enough.
Right,
so could you explain that a little bit more to that?
Sure. So I think this is, again, something we're testing. Again, just the process of putting out the RFP, learn from the different organizations that the programs are doing. I think to Councilor Jordain's point, a lot of these organizations are out there doing a lot of work for the city in some ways, right? I mean, for the community, and this is a way for us to sort of support that work. But yes, that was sort of the overwhelming comment from the review committee was there should be more money. So I think we start with this, see how it goes, reevaluate what's going on with impact fees, which is always taking up a lot of our space in the office and the law department. So we want to move quickly, but also cautiously. So yes, there could be additional requests coming down. This will be a good sort of grease the wheel, see how it works out.
Okay, I appreciate it, and thanks for the work you do.
Thank you.
Councilor Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to follow up on Councilor Tallman's question on his note, it says possibly, 500,000, 1 million. I mean, what do you think about those numbers? And then my second question is just kind of like, so I'm reading the sentence down here. It says this group would be tasked with the facilitation of ideas for the best way to use funds and to craft requests for proposals. Do you think like maybe in the future it'd be possible instead to craft the proposals first and then come down and ask for the specific money for the specific proposals? Just so we know, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of this was also us sort of trying to find out what's out there for programs. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's again another good point. Like, sort of get the lay of the land, sort of say, because what is BHN doing? What is, and then do we want to focus on youth? Do we want to focus on unsheltered individuals? Where do we want to sort of focus? So I think it is good to sort of start with a smaller pot of money, get the lay of the land, and yes, I think we could come back with more specific proposals for programs, sort of remove the RFP process perhaps and say, okay, these are programs we want to support down the road. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Okay, absolutely.
If I could just chime in, I agree with everything that's been said, and thank Councilor Jordan and everyone that brought this forward. I think it's definitely a good use for impact dollars. My encouragement and advice would be that as much of this as possible is turned into educational type dollars to get the word out in the street, to get the word out that these programs are available, and to get the impact of the dollars down the road. I think Councilor Powell makes a good point, that there are some specific, maybe not partnerships, but specific things that these programs can do with the help of impact dollars. My only caution is that the actual services are left up to the experts.
Absolutely.
The city's not a social agent and never should be. There's a fine line in one of our bigger departments, and I think we have to be careful when we're trying to help people out in the street corner, and whether it's bringing them into a housing type situation or certainly getting them towards services, or whether it be detox, TSS, CSS units or whatever. But at the same time, I think we can't make the decisions for the experts. Absolutely. They got to do it. But that's just my thoughts.
No, I think to your point, and then maybe to Councilor Powell's point also, is we don't want to create new programs. We want to support the programs already going out, support the information already going out. This is the way. We don't want to create something new, because whenever you create something new on a grant or some short-term funding, it never lasts. So we want to support the programs that are having an impact. I think that's the other thing with the evaluation is there's lots of programs out there. Which ones are having the actual impact?
We support the programs, and we had a nice conversation with Tapestry last night, Monday night. And we certainly support getting the dealers and traffickers off the streets that are supplying, the substance abusers, the people who have the addictions, and purposely making them bigger addicts.
Absolutely.
Because marijuana, when Councilor Tallman, was in high school, was marijuana. You get marijuana off the street now, it's got PCP, fentanyl, cocaine, you name it. It's not marijuana, not off the street. That's why we tell everybody in district court, when we work with people, get it out of the dispensary. Don't even think you can smoke something that your friend bought from so-and-so in the corner and he said, this is good stuff.
I think
It's
no
not.
matter where you stood on the recreational legalization, I think we can all agree that it should be a safer product. We're not able to go out and buy moonshine off the corner anymore. We have to buy our beer and our liquor through a liquor store or for a bar, and it should be the same with this product as well.
I did some work in Appalachia when I wore a younger man's clothes, and in West Virginia, we had our celebration party with a bunch of volunteers, and it was 190 proof grain alcohol.
I bet it
That's
was
as
good.
close to moonshine as I've ever gotten, and as close as I ever want to get. But it's a whole different world,
Yeah.
and education, I think, is a
Absolutely.
big part of it.
Absolutely.
And these are wonderful organizations, and I would say that about Condera as soon as they pay that bill
Pay
they
that
owe the
rent.
city. But that's a different story, Mayor. You know.
Keep that one in mind. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of cannabis stabilization, 100,000 to substance abuse programs, 100,000.
Motion made second that we
Second.
approve and recommend to the city council to adopt this appropriation transfer. If there's no further discussion, roll call. Councilor Tomlin?
Yes.
Councilor Puelo?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern? Yes. Passes 5-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
you.
Have a good rest of the evening.
Do you have any more, Aaron? Is number 6, that's not you, candidate stabilization? Number 6?
That's capital.
Capital, okay, no, you're set, okay.
I did the same thing when
All
I was
right.
doing the agenda. And then I
You're good, you're good.
More cannabis stabilization.
No more, okay.
more.
Motion to take item number 5 off the table.
Motion made second to take item 5 off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request of transfer, the second time we've had this, of $7,000 from auto motor equipment repairman into overtime, $7,000. On the motion to take off the table, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. We had this with us, and we had Carl Rossi with us, and the chief of police who was with us tonight.
great.
Is Carl Rossi with us? Carl, am I-
I
No.
don't think he is.
The chief is, though.
the chief is, though. This is a position under Mayor Sullivan many years ago, just real quick, historical, that he came to the city council and wanted to take all the mechanics in the city, which the police department had 1 or 2, the fire department had at least 2, and the DPW had 2 or 3, and create a motor pool, so to speak. It never quite got to the position I think that Mayor Sullivan envisioned, but it did made some more efficient ways for when it came to in-house mechanical repairs to our vehicles. Obviously, there's some special needs for police cars, cruisers. There's some special needs for fire apparatus, and there's some special needs for some of the bigger equipment for the DPW. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that was being done in this motor pool. When we took this up, the question was asked by Councilor Jordan, myself, I think the entire committee, is who's overseeing overtime? And we got 2 department heads that said, not me. So we tabled
So, yep, no, good job in tabling. If I may, Mr. Chairman.
it. Mayor Garcia.
So there's 2 things. There's the service, and then there's the structure that we create to meet the need or the service. So the service is mechanical work, police department, fixing their equipment. The structure we created is you got the mechanic that works at the police department but is employed, well, through the city of Holyoke, but under the budget of the Department of Public Works. And so the previous leadership in these departments, the former chief of the police and the former superintendent, had their arrangement of how they oversee that position. The new folks came into these positions, and now we have a little bit of a knot that we're trying to untangle. And some of the things that we're talking about internally as to whether or not we continue the existing practice, and if we do, the 2 department heads got to know, hey, look, this is, they got to have some sort of communication of when there's overtime needed to fix a cruiser or whatever the case, and the department head of that department that's responsible for the position has to be sure that he's watching his budget and making sure that he's not exceeding his overtime amount. If he is or will be, that he's communicating with the mayor. So that was actually the previous arrangement was made. You got everybody in these new positions, and communication and history got lost in the shuffle. We also have talked about whether or not we should just put that position underneath the supervision of the police department, since he's already working in there, so that the police chief can have oversight of that, of any overtime that goes to that. So those are the things we're currently juggling internally. And it's not only police, we're also talking about it with fire, because they have the same arrangement. There was no impact to overtime, though. It's just, this is becoming a red flag because of the deficit. So it's a knot that we're trying to untangle. That deficit is there. That's what's going on, and that's what the need is. At the same time, internally, we're trying to reconfigure and re-strategize to be sure that this situation doesn't happen again.
When you say deficit to the auditor, what is the deficit in the overtime account?
You want to know. Sorry, the deficit is $3,400 right now.
And
With
when you
this transfer, it'll be a positive $3,500.
When you say that to city councilors, they say, how can there be a deficit when you can't spend money you don't have?
Well, when it's when it's a personnel, when it's a salary related position and they're doing the job, you got to pay them. That's how it goes into the deficit. But again, the bells are being rang. Hey, we got this problem. Look what's going on. And here we are. When it comes to expenditure line items, right, we don't go into deficits. You don't spend money you don't have. But when it's a salary position and the people are being brought in to do the overtime work to fix it, like, we still got to pay it. But at the same time, we have to initiate our process to be sure that we're balancing it. And I think, and mark me if I'm wrong, Tanya, the reason for the extra 3,000 plus to be in a positive is to take care between now and June 30 in case overtime is needed for the mechanic to work on a police cruiser outside his normal working hours.
And we'll keep it simple. For the rest of the fiscal year, who's going to decide the overtime is justified and see it over?
Well, so right now they're both on high. Carl and the chief they're now, on high alert. They're talking. They know what's going on. Carl, coming in, being the new guy, wasn't sure what was going on, and he was like, "Why is this going?"
It was his first meeting, and
who is this person? Where is he? Later to find out, he's at the police department. That's where he is. So it was one of those transitional, knots.
I thought he worked out of the garage down to the DPW garage.
No. And the chief's here. He can talk more about
that's the way it was sold to the city council many moons ago.
Sorry, I wasn't here for that.
We have Chief Pratt with us. Chief Pratt, isn't it nice to go second?
Evening, Chief.
Yeah, I don't mind. The mayor did a very good job of explaining it, as always. I don't think I was ever confused of the money was controlled by the DPW. He's a DPW employee. He does work out of the DPW, or did. We have since made some improvements to the Front Street garage so that he could do more work up here rather than continually shuffling the cars down there. But he does work down there, when he's called down there or has to go down there. We share him like we always have, if need be. But for me, it was always very clear cut that he was a DPW employee. I have no control over that budget, nor would I. I just have cars that need to be fixed. How they do it or how they choose to do it. What I did find out from the last meeting going forward was that, like as the mayor mentioned, the previous DPW, well, maybe two previous times ago, DPW director had set up a system for this mechanic to work under, and that's what he was doing. My employee that assists him, his role was to ensure that the hours he was putting down, he was there to verify that, yes, he did work those hours. But my employee had no decision authority to let him work those hours. So I think that I've had conversations with Carl now. I think we're on the same page, unless the mayor changes something, which, quite honestly, I don't want to do that. But if he wants to do that and put him under my budget, then that's what we'll do. But for right now, he's under his budget. It's his overtime budget.
Right.
It's his decision ultimately what he does with that overtime money.
Well, first of all, thank both of you, because I think what you're telling us is what we want to hear, that at least someone's watching. Don't get me wrong, I understand overtime is necessary, but we just want someone in charge,
Right.
not just of the budget, but someone saying, yes, this is justified, and make sense out of it. And it seems like we're getting everybody on the same page. However, Chief, I did say I always thought all the mechanics were working out of the DPW garage, and there's a little can of worms here. Where is the Front Street garage? Is it what I think it is?
Right off of Front Street, the regular parking garage there, but if you're coming off of Front Street, the entrance to the parking garage where everyone parks on the left, to the right, there's another entrance there.
That's what I thought it was. And some years ago, and I know there's a parking advisory committee in full force now, trying to figure out why that parking garage no longer offers daytime parking, why people in the Monday through Friday visiting the Volleyball Hall of Fame and the Children's Museum have to park 7 blocks away to get into that building, and why I thought that we were slowly taking that back into parking for the garage itself and not make it a garage for the police department.
The whole downtown parking is a mess.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's always been there. As far as parking for the public on the other side, I don't know anything about it.
I understand, Chief, and this predates your time. I'm not. I understand. It has been used by the police department for years, but we were slowly taking it back. And part of Mayor Sullivan's vision was, to have that fully open to the public.
Yep.
The police department, just to be clear, is not the overseer. We have the garage and we're the overseers, I guess, but I believe it's, the DPW has that garage as well.
No, that's correct. But you made the statement that the mechanic was working in a better situation than Front Street. Can of worms.
Yeah, okay. I won't open. Sorry.
I made my point. As far as the overtime, I'm okay, but I think we need to address parking. We are addressing parking, Mayor, and I think we need to get to a point. The amount of meters that are broken in the city right now are getting close to a number that's I never heard of, and I understand that people who have parking passes on the Dwight Street garage, known as the former Mayor Ernie Prue garage, go over there and there's no parking places. And yet there's not even daytime parking allowed, daily parking allowed, which is a big need on this side of the city. Any further discussion? I think I dominated this one too much. Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, okay, so this money is coming out of automotive repair, motor equipment repairment out of the DPW then. So they have excess money in that account. Carl's not here, but that's what it looks like.
If I remember, one thing we knew about that was I think there's 2 positions in that line item, Tanya, and I think one was vacant part of the year. May still be vacant, I'm not sure.
That's correct.
Okay, so there is sufficient funds in there.
Yes.
To go into the, so that'll just pay the overtime that is right now owed, and then have a little cushion for the follow-up, 3 months or whatever, 4 months.
Even if they were to hire somebody making the same rate as the person that's in there now, they would still have additional funding left over for the year too.
Okay.
With this transfer.
With the transfer, okay.
Yes.
I'm all set.
Any further discussion?
I'll make
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion made second to approve the transfer, recommending adoption to the full city council next Tuesday. No further discussion. Roll call. Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Puelo?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern, yes. Thank you all.
Motion to take item number 6 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item 6 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Introduced under my name for the mayor, a capital stabilization transfer of $97,640 $1,087.20 into personal equipment for the same amount. Mayor, did you want to take the lead? I'm not sure.
Excuse me. Yeah, sure. I think Tanya might have the specifics of what's left in there and with this transfer, what the remaining balance would be. But this has to do with,
I believe police department.
yep, this has to do with the purchase of new firearms for the Holyoke Police Department, the current firearms, and the chief can get more into the specifics, but I believe they're 10 years, they're older than 10 years. Chief Pratt, how many years?
12 years old.
12 years old. 12 years old, and so we've engaged a public procurement, solicited some quotes, and we have a quote to bring to purchase how many firearms, Chief?
160.
And that's to replace all the department-issued firearms that are currently in the police department. But
Correct.
I'll pass it to the chief who can.
And no, no, Mayor, I'm sorry. When I went to you first, it was just,
Oh.
you believe it's a good use for capital stabilization. And you can delegate it to the chief. He knows all the details. Chief, did you want to finish this?
I'm more than willing to answer any questions about the firearms or if there's any questions specifically.
What
But
happens-
The firearms that we currently have are outdated. The average that normally it's more in the 7 to 10 range that you want to stay in, and we're at 12. It was actually mentioned in the audit as well, or the assessment that we had done. It's the guns that, when you get to that age, you run the risk of them failing, and that's the last thing we would want. So we're a little overdue to get this done, but we have had a plan going for some time, and we were able to, I believe the original estimates, we were up in the 180 range, and through trades and working out a deal and really doing our due diligence, my firearms people are real experts, and we're able to negotiate that all the way down to 97,000 for what we need. And that's everything. That's the firearms and the holsters, and that's going to get us all fully equipped and up to the most modern stuff.
And Chief, what happens to the old firearm?
They're traded in.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Jordan.
What's the trade-in value? Because it seems affordable, because that's only $600 a gun. If it's 600 guns, 160 guns times 600 would be the 97,000. What's the trade-in value of the old guns?
Roughly
67,000. It's on the sheet.
69,440 is the number I have roughly.
And are we turning in 160 guns?
No, 154.
Okay. All right. So so the new guns are like about, maybe $1,100 or $1,000, and you're getting about $400 it sounds like for the salvage value of the other ones? Does that sound about right?
Correct.
Okay. Question on the other one is, what about like the rifles and your shotguns and all of that type of stuff? What about the non-handguns? What do you guys, how often does that have to be changed over, and is that due as well?
No, we just got those within the last 4 years. We're good there.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion?
Make a motion to be approved.
Second.
Motion made second to approve the transfer and recommend to full city council that we adopt the appropriation. If there's no further discussion, roll call. Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Powell?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern? Yes. Adopted 5-0. Thank you, Chief. We appreciate it as always.
So a motion to table,
Well-
Mr. Chairman?
Number 7? Motion.
Real quick, item 7, I did receive I think we all received an email, and I received a quick talk or an email, text, but with our treasurer. Katie McCoy in the police department and Rory are working on reconciling this account. They're asking for a little bit more time so they can bring all the numbers together and answer all the questions that we've had. This is the account that we know and the vendor that works with the money that is paid to off-duty police for private detail. So Chair would just suggest we leave it on the table.
Motion to table, item number 7.
Second.
Motion made, second to table. If no one else has anything to say, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. And item number 8, as previously discussed, we just recently received, take it off the table for discussion real quick.
No, take item number 8 off the table for
Motion made,
discussion.
second to take off the table for discussion. This was originally a request for Mayor Garcia to provide a historic preservation-related repairs needed to city buildings. This was originally requested by Councilor Jordan, Bartley, Rivera, and Bacon, and we, off the table for discussion, Mayor, we talked about this briefly with Megan McGrath. I talked about it with her earlier. We do have a list. Sean Sheedy, I think, provided it. It looks pretty extensive, and I think it's something we'd like to go through at a future date and just talk about prioritizing and getting some of these projects before CPA while the money is.
And I saw the direction we're all going, and absolutely, at CPA, they've never really, if at all, received applications from the city for, things like City Hall or the Annex building or some of our historic buildings. I think we all came in a year, 6 months. Sean's new, DPW director's new. I was more focused on putting out fires than I was focused on, but having a long conversation with Megan, I did tell her to be prepared to get some projects in front of you that are related to our public buildings.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Jordan.
So I did want to just say thank you to the mayor and the team, and also to Megan and to everybody involved for helping us to put together this list and to acting on it. And so it's just good to see good suggestions coming to a fruition and getting this important work. And obviously, I know the obvious one that we've all sat there talking about is the city council chambers and the murals. The Santoro murals from 1952 that certainly are in immediate need of restoration, but I'm sure there's others, and look forward to working with the mayor and the rest of my colleagues on these other important projects that we can put forward to CPI.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Then we can now
Motion to
entertain
table that.
motion to table.
Second.
Roll call. Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Powell?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern? Yes. Laid on the table for a future discussion. Mayor, thank you, because not only is it honoring the request, it's an incredibly detailed list. And I think, not just for CPA, I think it's a great list to have to know what our needs are, and
I was so happy to see that.
it's wonderful. It's scary, but it's also wonderful.
Oh,
But-
listen, it's not as scary as what you think. It's actually, we've been compiling these lists, these projects, all very doable. It's just in a matter of how we plan accordingly with our available resources and get projects moving forward. So we'll get there.
Point well taken. Thank you. It was a great motion. I'd like to hear now.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second
Motion
that.
made second to adjourn. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody. I think we did this in record time, even with Councilor Jordan doing 2 meetings at once.
Good job, Kevin.
Hey, that worked out good too for the G&E. So that
right.
was also a good meeting.
Good to hear.
All right.
All right, have a good
Take
night.
care, everybody. Have a
We'll
good
see ya.
night.
We'll see ya.